All right, all right. I really don't want to turn the song off, but it is 8 o'clock. Well, it is time for our interview with Satsmoon, aka Sats, aka Moon. Are you with us?
What up, Heather? HeatherHrz, yeah, in the mix. That was like dope. We need to keep that going.
Yes. Yeah. Soon I'll do another DJ stream here, and yeah, it's been a while since I did one for the Whale fam, so it's overdue. But yeah, I'm glad that you guys enjoyed that. Let's give a warm welcome to Satsmoon, the founder of Future Art. Really excited to have you tonight.
I'm super pumped to be here. I'm in the Future Art Studio here in Sydney, Australia, hanging out with my co-founder, Dave Good. And yeah, like we're just super pumped to be able to come on and chat to you guys. Awesome.
So, yeah, my first question would be, how did you get into collecting art, and how did you get introduced to the world of collecting NFTs and crypto art?
Sit down, pour yourself a drink. Yeah, that's like that's a fairly long question, but I guess for me, it starts. Probably starts about 20 years ago. I was living in London, working over there as like a young like music director in my 20s. I'd come across from Sydney, Australia, and I was working in a part of London called Soho. And right there in that time was the time when Banksy was really starting to come through. People like I guess Invader, a lot of street artists that were really punching through. So I was sort of like really catching a lot of the street art for the very first time. So I was seeing like Banksy pieces, seeing Invader for the first time. And it was around about that time that I started to go to a few art shows in Soho. There were a couple of early Banksy shows that I just, managed to like be standing outside of, really just like, be like, what's going on in here? And we just sort of like slid in. One of the shows that was really sort of, I guess, influential was a show called Santa's Ghetto, which I think was probably like 2003. And I remember going in there and checking out all this Banksy stuff. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I sort of don't really get it. Like, I don't know if it really works on print, because I'd seen a lot of his stuff, like street art. And I was a really big fan of the street art stuff. And I remember going in there just thinking, nah, this is not really for me. I don't really get it. I don't really like Banksy on like paper. And I remember leaving there and I didn't buy anything. And we were there probably for about half an hour. And then I walked out, and then probably about a year or so later, I was back in Sydney, Australia, and I realized that, that you could buy these prints, that he was selling these prints online on this really famous sort of art website called Pictures on Wall. And I was back in Sydney, and at that point I was like, man, damn, I really want to own a Banksy. I want to be able to put one on my wall. Now that I don't get to see his art in the flesh, it really I was like, hey, I want to show people this great artist that I was a fan of. So I was really lucky, and at that point I started to buy some Banksy prints that were on sale on Pictures on Wall. There were some of like his early prints, like for anyone who knows Banksy, it was sort of like Bomb Hugger, which is like an iconic print of his, Applause. And these were prints that I was picking up for like maybe, I think they were like 250 quid or 300 pounds, something along those lines.
Wow.
And, I got hooked on that instantly, because I was like, great. And then they arrived in Sydney, had them shipped over. They arrived with a certificate of authenticity that was stamped by Banksy himself. And yeah, I just started like buying them. And then over the next couple of years, as Banksy's star really rose, and a lot of people became more familiar with his work, obviously the prices for Banksy prints were really like beginning to skyrocket. And I really got involved in that community, in that scene, and I was buying and selling and flipping art, and I really fell in love with that whole collecting, but more so than just collecting. It was the whole community vibe of buying a piece of art, flipping it, selling it. But obviously back then the challenges were really, the challenges of moving a Banksy print, even around the world, were really difficult. You'd put them into a tube. You'd have to check if they were fake. There were a lot of fake Banksy prints going around, a lot of fake certificate of authenticity. It had a lot of sort of dangers in that. So yeah, so that was sort of my initial like art collecting story, how I really fell in love with art collecting. And then over the next 20 years, I really stayed passionate to collecting art that I really liked, whether it was Damien Hirst or Anthony Micallef or Obey or Anthony Lister, a lot of sort of street art print guys. And I guess that to round that origin story out, and how I got into NFTs, and it's something I've spoken about a little bit before, but where as my career took off and I was living overseas and working overseas a lot, I ended up storing a lot of my art collection that I had over 20 years in a storage facility here in Sydney. And then I was living in LA, in about 2019, there was a massive fire which took place here in Sydney, Australia, and destroyed the building which I had housed the best part of my 20-year art collection. And that was super devastating because everything was destroyed, like everything I'd collected, everything I'd held on to, and it was super devastating and really sort of like reduced me to like, I'm never going to collect again. I'm not interested in art anymore. And it was sort of not so long after that I really first discovered NFTs. And then, off the back of that great loss of physical artwork, the appeal and the ideals and the whole culture behind NFTs really struck a chord. And that's how I fell into NFTs.
That's a crazy story. I remember reading that in the broadsheet article, that your work was just a lot of your collection was destroyed in the fire, and I was like, how do you even like emotionally recover from that? Like, I'm sure that you have.
I mean, just to dive into that story, because I had really seen myself as, it was almost part of my makeup, who I was. I'd go out to a party and I would tell people like, yeah, I collect art, like I have Banksies, like that was like part of my like who I really like associated with. And then having all that snatched away in such a way. I mean, I was in LA. I literally couldn't believe it. I was like, no, it can't be possible. It's a concrete building. It would have survived. I flew back from LA and like ended up breaking into this smoldering, like, almost falling down, burnt out, to basically to see for myself. Like, I wanted to see the remains.
You want to save your babies.
Yeah, and I got to see them when they were discussed. So I had to get over it. Yeah.
And how exactly did you get introduced to the world of NFTs? Like, who showed it to you? How did you find out about it?
I think I'd been extremely interested in crypto and Bitcoin from very early on. Like a lot of people, I had friends that that would talk about Bitcoin. They would talk about like the Silk Road. So I was aware of Bitcoin. I never really sort of like had any need to to acquire any crypto. And then around 2016, early 2017, my interest really spiked again, and I really fell down the crypto rabbit hole and really became sort of passionate about Bitcoin. And I was a bit of a Bitcoin maximalist, and I didn't really super understand Ethereum, and I wasn't, completely sort of, on board with the whole Ethereum thing. And I remember when CryptoKitties popped out, I was like, oh, I like collecting art, and I can see how the art collecting on the blockchain makes sense. But at the time, I didn't have a MetaMask. I didn't understand how to get a CryptoKitty. So I was sort of a little bit, it was like it sort of passed me by, even though I tried. And then it was probably, not long after that fire and, 2019. And it was probably when I really got into it was when Nifty Gateway first popped off and first started. I was a fan of the Winklevoss guys. I'd followed them on Twitter for a while. I was aware of their Bitcoin Genesis story, and I started following them. And that was when they were really when they acquired Nifty Gateway and started talking about NFTs in more way. It sort of really gave me a push to really jump in. And so I was sort of active before Nifty Gateway launched, and that's when I found Super Rare. And then, the rest is sort of history. It was a really quick descent into total NFT, like complete,
Total
like I
NFT
literally my life,
madness.
literally my life stopped. But I think also, like a lot of people, that was definitely around the same time that COVID was really taking off, and I had my business had ceased like pretty much instantly when COVID took off. We were in like music and promoting music shows in LA, so my background was like music management. And then we had basically a whole year just cancel in like 1 week. There was just like all the shows are done, where there's no more shows to do. So I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? Like what's my take? And so that gave me a lot of
Yeah.
time and energy to really be like, you know what, this NFT thing looks like it's got legs.
That's cool. So what was actually your first NFT that you collected? Do you have that on your
Yeah, I mean,
Instagram or?
do I have it on my Instagram? It's a great question, and I really should know the answer to that. I feel like it probably was something off Super Rare, super early on. Yeah, it was maybe one of the Sarah Show pieces, or that I really, on Super Rare. And it might have even been one of the early first Nifty Gateway drops as well. It was around that time. So I think it was maybe a Sarah Show piece.
Yeah, her work is really cool. I see. I don't know if this is her. It's obviously not your first, but
Oh,
this
that's
is
her in the middle there.
some
Yeah, this is
Sarah Show work for
totally.
anyone who isn't familiar.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
it's it's quite funny that you bring up the Instagram, because I was like, oh, no one's really putting a lot of like like crypto art on Instagram, or I wasn't aware of any, so I was like, I'm gonna like put my collection up on Instagram, and just without thinking too much, I was like laying down like in a tile of three or in a line of three. And that really fucked me up later, because that meant I had to buy three of every artist, and that became that's
I
really
was
annoying that I've got so many like twos of artists, and I haven't quite acquired the third one yet. So it's sort of slowed down my ability to um post my collection.
well, as a graphic designer and artist, I noticed the 3x3s, and it's very aesthetically pleasing to my eyes. So
Thank
you're
you.
making random people happy. I guess
Good.
it's a good investment. Um, so I wanted to ask you about the Future Art Festival that was just held in January, because that looked really cool. Let me see. I had some videos here. My bad. Yeah, how did you go about organizing this festival? I know it was during a global pandemic, but in Sydney, it kind of doesn't exist there. So, what were
Yeah,
some of the challenges of that?
I definitely just want to point out to everyone I just want to point out to everyone listening overseas that, like here in Australia and Sydney, we've been really lucky, and we have like very limited exposure to COVID-19 right now. So, we're sort of like 20, 30 days without any COVID cases. So, like, we're very aware that what we were doing was quite unique. But yeah, to answer your question, when I came back from LA during COVID, I arrived in Sydney. I had this art collection, and I was here with my business partner Dave Good, and we started to talk about, I would love to show and do a pop up event, um, showing the art. And Dave and I have worked together for 16 years. Dave was in a really big EDM pop band here in Australia. They were like 10 times platinum. We toured the world together for an awful long time. So when I hit Dave up to like do an event, he just sort of jumped at it. Dave, you want to chime in?
Well, our studio here in where I've been producing music for the last few years. It's actually an old TV studio in the heart of Paddington Town Hall. So it was a bit of a no-brainer when he says, "I want to show my collection." I was like, "Well, we've got to utilize this beautiful old, 250-year-old building, and that's turned into a TV studio with lots of different rooms and caverns and spaces. And as you can see there on the video you're playing, we have a big green screen room where we're able to put massive projections on the wall. So it was just a bit of a no-brainer, and
Yeah, and I think like Dave and I were both really passionate. We'd been in crypto for like 4 or 5 years, and we were always like, what can we do? Like, what's our skill set? Like, what are we good at? Like, what can we do to push forward this NFT crypto space? And we've got a great history of putting on events, of putting on music, of doing. That's what we're really good at. We've toured the world doing events, so it felt natural for us to try and look at how we could bring crypto art into a live space, like what we could do to create crypto events. And that was sort of what the basis to Future Art was. We wanted to bring together crypto art, music, immersive technologies, whether that's AR, VR. And I think at this Future Art, Dave, one of the most popular sections was probably the AR room.
Marco Matic sent us down a lot of his AR prints that we put around this special little art installation, which we did as a grandfather's old room. So, rug and old chair and old record players. We had this juxtaposition of really old school decor with this high tech new AR stuff. So we had the AR prints around the room, and it was the biggest hit of the whole thing. People just couldn't believe that these paintings or these prints or animations were coming to life.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, as we were talking, it's like one of the goals is definitely to sort of show people physically. I mean, we're all, we've all seen crypto art on our phones, on our computers. We've all been to the metaverse, and we've all, had a great time in Decentraland or crypto voxels. But we really wanted to try and, be the guys that was bringing crypto art and this art movement into like the physical realm. And I think, we've been really open and said that there are a lot of really great influences that we've had. It's whether it's like, I know that you're from New York, and you probably know Sleep No More, which was a theater production which ran in Manhattan, or still runs in Manhattan. And we just really like the idea of trying to like bring in that real live, real immersive sort of experience. Like obviously Meow Wolf. I don't know if there's people right across the world that have heard of Meow Wolf, but they're an incredible group of artists who work in creating live events. So this is the type of stuff that we were really like influenced by.
It sounds like it was a really cool event, and I love the idea that it was like all these like caverns and like different spaces. It sounds like it would have been an awesome rave if you actually could have like.
Well, when two of the we like the idea of building installations to show off crypto art. We had a trash art installation that was really cool. We built basically like, a laneway, back of a laneway with trash cans and stuff. And we actually had a bunch of trash art in there that was really cool. With the Sarah show, we really like built a drag queen's makeup area, which is like, and we had this sort of real sort of theatrical, that was very Sydney. Sydney has a great gay and lesbian culture here, and a lot of like great drag shows. So we really built into that and created this really kitsch dressing room where we were able to show off Sarah's stuff, and just building those sort of environments and doing stuff like that.
That's awesome how you incorporate the artist's work and then like create these whole like worlds around it that maybe it wasn't like the artist's idea, but it seems like a really collaborative, thoughtful effort on your part.
I think it wasn't quite the artist's idea. We just really took it upon ourselves to run with that.
And we want a physical event for people to come in and just think that they've been transported into something else. It's not just crypto art on a TV screen. We really want to push into that art installation.
Yeah, we were very aware that we didn't want to put on an event where you're just like, oh, that's just a bunch of digital images on some TV screens nailed to the wall. Like that's the thing we really wanted to avoid. And it's probably the biggest challenge is to really take digital physical works and really give them scale, but allow people to really interact with them more than just, hey, that's a TV on a wall.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that as a viewer. I've been to some crypto events and it does kind of feel like that, but being able to be immersed in the art and feel like you're taken to another place is really cool. Um, so I wanted to ask you, like, do you have any designs on creating a virtual version of the Future Art Festival for those of us that can't come to the real thing?
Yeah, we're sort of 50-50 on that. Yeah, absolutely. We're aware of wanting to create access and allow people to experience future art. And then at the same time, we're really sort of understand that what we're trying to do is create physical events. And I know that's very difficult right now in COVID and where we are, but it's our long-term plan. It's like Dave and I are sitting here mapping out where we want to be in the next 3 to 5 years. And we're already off the back of this, we're already talking to options in the Netherlands, in the UK, in the US, in Asia. Like, we have real plans to in 2022, obviously not this year, but planning into next year, to take future art on the road and really come to all these places and try and visit as many people as possible. The idea is that this will be a traveling event, or an event that is going to be able to sit anywhere in the world. So even though we want to do metaverse stuff, definitely, our focus is really, and our effort is really, to try and get this show, post-COVID, into as many countries as possible.
I love the sound of that. That's really exciting, and I hope that I can come to the next live one. That sounds like,
Well,
I don't know.
if you
I haven't been to an event like that in years.
bring those drum and bass tunes, and we can get you to play a set.
You've got a set.
Yes. Oh, I will be there. Thank you. I would love it.
That's a really big part of future art, is definitely the music component to it. I think if anyone's seen any of the content that we've produced, already with future art, I mean, Dave produces all the music here out of the studio that we've used in all our promo stuff, and we very much want to create a space where it is it's music and and immersive digital crypto art. We really see that as something that I really enjoy doing. I really like to sit or dance and have a drink and really check out this stuff. It's really a fascinating way to experience this new art movement.
Yeah, I love that you bring in both worlds, because I really feel like both music and art kind of feed into each other, into creating each other. Even more so, like, when I listen to music, yeah, I'm way inspired. It's just, there's this visceral reaction that happens when you hear sounds that you can't help but move, or have a feeling that comes up. And I think the same thing happens with art that's special and moves you.
Yeah, we definitely see. You've obviously seen, in our NFT crypto art scene, we're seeing now these visual artists, guys who've worked with, whether it's Blau or whether it's Dead Mouse or Carl Cox or Panau, they're starting to see these guys really, have their moment to shine. And, I definitely envisage in the future that, whether you go to Glastonbury in the UK or whether you're at Coachella, I see a time in the not too distant future where, people will be coming to see Ferocious, inside that tent, that main tent, to see her latest artworks, alongside Diplo or, Major Lazer, or someone cool like that. So we see that as the future, and that's really what we're working towards.
I just got chills. That's really exciting, and I feel like that hasn't really been, done before, where the art and the music are both equally featured. It feels like you're making them both important. It's not I feel like a lot of festivals, music festivals, will just the DJ is there, and then there's the artists with their art booth. But this sounds like it's more integrated.
Yeah, I think you're seeing that now. We're seeing the first, well, not the first, but we're seeing another big wave of artists who, are going to have fans and followers, and a real thirst for seeing people drop new artwork, and like a genuine fans. And I think wherever you see those fans, that you'll see an opportunity for them to really break down some barriers that have existed, where that they become on the same level as those musicians.
I love that. It's such a great idea. And actually, so like the next question for you is like, what makes you become a fan of a specific artist? Like, does it have something to do with, is it just that you're attracted to their art, or do you find out about who they are beforehand? Like, what makes you want to buy? What makes you want to invest in a specific NFT?
I think that's a great question.
In one.
That's a great question, and I think a lot of it, like 80% of the art that I've bought, is just literally off a gut feeling. It's a reaction to seeing artwork. I remember that when I first started to get involved at Super Rare, I had a very limited budget. Like I didn't have a lot of ETH to throw around. I'm not a whale in that sense of having a lot of money. And I remember feeling that I was being priced out of all this cool art very quickly. And that's when I definitely, discovered Rarible, or really moved across to Rarible. And at that point, it was just this great moment where I could just go through and buy art that I really liked, even without knowing who the artist was or what the story was, or just like, I love this art and I'm just going to buy it because I really feel moved by it. But then, being in the scene, you hear stories, and you find out and you hear people's artist stories, and that they're also quite captivating. And I've definitely bought art from artists once I've learned a little bit about their backstory, where they're from, and the type of influences. So I think it's for me, it's definitely a combination of of both those things.
Yeah, I could tell, like, just by looking at your collection, just the way it's curated, it feels like it's something that you personally are like visually attracted to. I think sometimes I look at collections and it seems like it's sort of like a who's who of like the biggest name artists, but it doesn't feel like personal.
Yeah, I definitely love color, and I think that it's that basic. Like a lot of the artwork I buy and I resonate with is like it sort of speaks to like our old like rave days, or growing up in like fluoro or nightclubs, or like stuff. That's the stuff that I really like react to. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff I feel like I buy stuff because it really, like, I feel it.
So I actually have a sort of related question from Lang. They're asking, or they say, so a lot of collectibles become valuable by a lot of people having it in the past, but very few kept it. So it created natural scarcity. How do you see that could be done in a good way for collectors?
I mean, I think people, when they talk about scarcity and value, I mean, for me, it just really always comes down to the most basic principle of supply and demand. It's like, how many people want that piece of art, or how many people are fans? I mean, you can have only 3 collectors, and they can buy out your entire back catalog, and we've seen that so much. It's really hard to answer that question. There are so many different answers to it. I don't think I've got one definitive one. I really do think that each situation is unique. Each collectible is unique. Each artist has a story. I mean, some of the artists that I've really wanted to buy their stuff, I mean, there's only been 2 or 3 other collectors that have been buying it. And then, there are some artists like Beeple where there are like, 10,000 people trying to acquire his work. They're both equally as hard to acquire, and they both have, equally amounts of scarcity.
Yes, hope that answers your question, Lang. Yeah, it's a very complicated question too. It's like not really easy to. I agree, it's not really easy to answer definitively, but I feel like the sense I get from, well, actually, let me ask you, like when you're looking at art, at NFTs specifically, it sounds like, or I want to ask, are you looking at it from like an investor's perspective, or is this something that it's like, this is the joy of collecting and you want to find ways to sort of share your collection with the world?
I mean, I think I have to be really brutally honest, and I think I've always been transparent in the fact that I definitely get a kick or a buzz out of acquiring art that I feel is going to appreciate in not only value, but I guess in fame, or like people, finding out about the artist. I love discovering a piece of art or an artist early. I mean, whether that was in my music career, when you were signing a band before anyone else signed them, and then you watched that band, blow up and have global success. There's a massive buzz and a kick out of doing that. And you would always look for an undiscovered gem. And so definitely when I was, collecting art, I was like, yeah, I'm going to buy this art because I think this is a dope piece of art and I love the vibe, but I'm doing it because I think it's going to appreciate in value. Yeah. And I love the idea that I could flip it later. I mean, I think buying and selling and flipping, a lot of people feel that that's a dirty word. And I know a lot of collectors, hodl, but the reason I've been able to grow my collection, or be able to stay afloat and spend time on it, is because of the ability to buy and sell and speculate. And I think I see myself as definitely an art investor. I enjoy art. I love art. There's a lot of art in my collection I will never sell, but there's a lot of art in my collection that I'll hang on to for a while, and I would love to flip and then use that money to reinvest in more artists.
Great answer, and I appreciate your honesty. And so what would need to be, like, is there something specific about a piece of art that would make you want to hodl it and never sell it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the best example of that is when I first got into the scene. We definitely, I love stories. I want to hear stories from crypto art. I love hearing, stories about early Genesis stuff. I mean, the idea of crypto kitties, of crypto punks. And for me, when I first discovered Super Rare, I reached out in the Discord. I remember getting in the Discord and hitting up like Zach and saying, "Hey, dude, like I'm sort of new here. What's the story with like, Super Rare? Like how did it start? Like who was the first artist? Like, and then he sent me an article that he'd written on Robbie Barrett on the Lost Robbies, which was, if people are familiar with the story, Robbie Barrett was the first artist on Super Rare. He put out the first 2 or 3, and there's an incredible story about those Super Rare guys being invited to London to present at a Christie's art and tech fair. And Art Gnome, people who know the story, he gave everyone in the audience, all 300 people, a Robbie Barrett Super Rare, artwork. And the great story behind that is that out of all those 300 people, only 17 of them actually could be bothered to take home and claim that piece of art. Now, the rest of them became known as the Lost Robbies, and they were never discovered and probably ended up in the trash bin. And now the 17 versions that sit on Super Rare are this incredible iconic story. I love that story. I wanted a Lost Robbie for so long. I just, I finally got my hands on one 6 months ago. That's one that I'll probably like never ever sell. I love that story. So to answer your question, yeah, like stories like that are just like captivating.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Actually, we have another question from Lang. I guess they want to know, what analysis do you do in discovering artists, like, and where do you go to look for them?
I mean, like, it's hard. It's definitely harder and harder. Like, like it is hard to find an artist, but I mean, we have an untapped talent pool of artists that haven't discovered NFTs. There are hundreds of new artists arriving every day. So, from an analysis point of view, I mean, how good is the art? Like, that's the analysis. Like, is it really good or is it not? I think that's key. But then I love I still love heading to Rarible and like literally digging around. Anyone can go to Rarible. Anyone can find, the crap section, the unauthorized whatever section, and discover new artists there all the time. Or any of the other platforms, Known Origin. Even I was there on Rarible a few weeks ago. I was poking around. I found some like planets that I really liked. That no one had bought any of them. They were just sitting there, and no one cared about them. I was like, I really like these. I think I'll buy a couple. I mean, I love that idea. That's the analysis I did. Was did I like them, and no one else had bought them? That seemed like a good thing for me to get into.
Yeah, it's a really cool story. And I have another question from Demon Tiger. It might be hard to answer, but what is the worst piece of art you've ever come across? And you can explain it if you don't have a visual image.
The worst piece of art I've ever come across. I mean, I'm very passionate about like not judging the worst piece of art. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I know art that I know art that I don't like, and some of the art that I really don't like, and I, I would never be so arrogant to like speak out on that because, like, one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? So, I
Right.
mean, there's so much crap art out there, like crap music, but I mean, I'm not to tell anyone that their art is not valid or it's not, whatever. For me, I
Yeah.
think I'm really passionate about saying, art's a journey for a lot of people as well, like music, I mean, you have to be crap to be good. It's very rarely that you just arrive like, amazing. That's super rare, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess like, uh, I mean, like, is there something that, just to sort of go deeper into Demon's question, like, is there anything that like turns you off that artists do that makes you feel like, I don't know, you're like, I'm not into this at all. Like, it might be valid art, but you're just like,
I mean, yeah.
I mean, it
I mean,
is.
I think that's a good question, and I think social media or like Twitter is there are definitely artists that I enjoy their art, but then probably you get to know them, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not as much of a fan of you as I thought I would, but I can really relate that to my time in the music industry, which we used to have a very strong saying is like never meet your idols. You know what I mean? Because you can be bitterly disappointed. You can love some people's music or you can love their art, and if you get to know them, you might not like them as much. So, I mean, I think I'm just aware of like trying to treat art, and sometimes sometimes you need to separate the art from the artist, and sometimes that's hard, especially in crypto art where you're encouraged to be super active or super available or super honest on social media.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Very diplomatic, but it's true. Well, we have a lot of questions from the chat. I'm like, ooh, which one should I ask first? Let's see. Lang asks, you talked about fakes in the physical world and trying to avoid those. How do you try to avoid them in crypto? Like, what should we look for to make sure that we're not paying money to a scammer?
Yeah, I mean we have the simple answer. We have the blockchain. We have due diligence still. I mean, I've been burned. I've bought fake art. Like I have bought fake art on Rarible. That's definitely a problem where I thought I was buying something insane, but it was literally someone had copied it from another artist and uploaded it, and I bought it, and I got stung. The artwork was amazing. It just was not from the right artist. So what I learned from that situation was if I find a piece of art from an artist that I really like, it's up to me to like do some due diligence. I did a Google reverse search. I think that's what, image search, where, you can put something in and have a look. I mean, I hope the community is quite active and helps to rally around that. I think that problem is becoming less and less. But look, I mean, hey, there's no guarantees in life. I've been burnt. It's only happened once out of probably 500, 700 art buys. So that's
pretty good
an
odds.
okay number for me. Yeah, I can live with that.
Yeah.
But I mean,
And
the answer
they-
is to really due diligence. But I think with the blockchain, I mean, you can really go through and like look, is this a Trevor Jones piece? Is it minted by Trevor Jones? If people understand how to use Etherscan and look at contracts and understand like the mechanics of even the basic mechanics, there's so much information that that you can pull once you work your way around and understand how OpenSea and how Etherscan works. You can solve 80-90% of the problems yourself, or at least answers yourself.
Yeah, I think with the new blockchain technology, well, not so new, but it definitely makes it less. It makes it easier for collectors to make sure that they're not getting into something fake, because there is a lot of people out there that artists out there that are just kind of like copying and pasting some image that they found on like Google Images and then like semi warping it or like putting a glitch on it. And I'm like, I don't know how much that like how okay that is. Like if they
Yeah, I mean
changed it enough to make it theirs. Yeah.
that's an interesting thing. I mean, again, I bring a lot of stories back to music, but the whole idea of copyright and ownership, and I mean, you have to acknowledge your source, I think, in a lot of ways. But it's like a remix, I mean, there's so many great records that I love that are made from remixes. You know what I mean? So I don't have a problem with the remix. I mean, if it's but just as long as it's acknowledged and everyone can acknowledge it, then I think it's valid. Though, like, you shouldn't shut that art out. It's valid art.
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially as a fan of electronic music, like so much of it are remixes of existing songs, and I definitely appreciate visual remixes. But I think just straight copies that are out there, it's unfortunate that's happening. But definitely, visual remixes are cool too. So actually, I have a question from Acha Tanga. They ask, what was your experience, or what has your experience taught you regarding which projects to onboard and which to avoid? And on that note, how likely are you to recommend the whale project?
I mean, I definitely think community is key. Like everything that we do, in any creative endeavor, you always look to the strength of the community. Not everyone gets it right all the time as well. Like I think, this is a very fast evolving scene, and if you look how quickly things have moved in 12 months here, not everyone has made the right decisions at the right times. But I think people have to understand that things are fluid and things are moving. So to answer your question, I definitely look at communities, like, and obviously the whale community is such a solid community with great people, and it seems a very healthy community from any time I've had interactions with it. And that's really what I look for, is like, a healthy community. Not everyone agrees with everyone, point of view. I think, you've seen all kinds of issues with collectors and artists over the last 12 months. But I genuinely believe from our, time at Future Art, and that everybody, almost fairly not everyone, but 99% of people are working towards the greater good. And, definitely the whale community is definitely working towards the greater good. So I'm 100% supportive of anyone that's moving, NFT crypto art forward.
Yay. Glad that you like our community, and it's definitely growing. And our community like vision is that we are fluid and that we grow with the changing landscape that is this NFT crypto world. It feels like every week there's something new to learn and explore. It's really exciting to be part of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you're doing today, and how important it is to for people to tell stories, whether it's collector stories, platform stories, artist stories, new collectors, established collectors. I mean, I know for me on my journey, it was really important to listen to a lot of early stories. And I know that the guys from Scent, I'm sure you guys know Matthew. I remember listening to a lot of the early podcasts that they produced Even with Whale Shark was one of the early podcasts that I listened to in sort of great detail. And, I learned so much by listening to talks like this, by listening to those podcasts. They were literally like that sort of crash NFT 101 course. So yeah, I think storytelling and allowing people to, present themselves like this is just super important.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, maybe this is kind of a related question. So Lang asks, you're in a country that sounds like they're trying to get back to normal. And have you seen less crypto talks and other hobby talks now that people can go outside? Do you feel like there's less of an interest in this, or that it's still growing?
Lang, seriously, have you been paying attention? I think we've had like 4 hours sleep in the last crypto is 24/7. It is on fire right now. I mean, like NFTs, Bitcoin, Ethereum, NBA Top Shot. I mean, things are just exploded. And I definitely feel that even though we're back doing normal things, in Australia, we're definitely tuned in, especially like myself and Dave and our crew, experiencing this almost euphoria of this bull run and this attention that, this scene is seeing. We're super excited, by it, by being able to do crypto-based event, like Future Art. We're just cheering that we're through this, because we had a really tough, a really sort of, like most people, depressing crypto winter. So yeah, we find the whole scene is super energized right now, and that hasn't diminished because we can go outside.
So we have a question from Zenite. Do you think that virtual art will completely replace real life in the future, or will they coexist? And if so, do you have a feeling of which would be more dominant?
That's a great question. I know Dave doesn't thinks physical art's still here. I don't know. I love to think that like digital will one day overcome physical, maybe in like a greater ecosystem, maybe sales, maybe, auctions, that will happen. But as we talk to everyone, digital art's not here to replace physical art. It's to complement it. It's to grow it. I definitely, we love the intersection of physical events. We had a couple of physical pieces at Future Art. We created some light boxes that were really cool, that were sort of like, these big, great light boxes that had some artwork by Burst on it. And, they sold like straight out, and people were really like just wanted to take physical stuff home with them as well. I think, when we do an event like that, that's the challenge, is so many people still don't have a MetaMask. So many people still don't understand. Like, we're constantly trying to onboard people. Obviously, we're sort of reluctant to do that because, you just don't want to be fucking with people's private keys, or like having any responsibility around onboarding somebody. I find that something that we really want to avoid. But, the fact is that a lot of people we're in the absolute minority right now collecting digital art. Like, we are super, super, super early.
That's good to hear, though, as an artist and a wannabe collector, that we're still very much in the early phase of creating this world.
I really look at it as like, how many people have a MetaMask? Like, how many people understand Web3? Like, who can actually? Dave and I have been working down here. Everyone who worked on the Future Art event, Dave, we were like,
yeah, we gave them a tutorial. Well, we sent a YouTube tutorial, and we said, this is what we do. We use MetaMask in our browser, set it up here, and then this is how you view your art. But we literally had to spell it out like that, and nobody that worked on our show, bar one or two, actually had an address.
Yeah, so we were very keen to give everyone. We wanted to give all the workers, or the people that helped us create the event, we wanted to give them like an NFT, like, hey, like, you worked on the first Future Art, we really want to give you an NFT. And these are all like, cool tech savvy hipsters from Sydney, and like, none of them have a MetaMask. None of them understand yet. I mean, they want to, they just, haven't taken that step. So we are early. We're really early.
Actually have a kind of related question to that. How do you see artists and collectors working together to like make it more accessible to be part of this world? Because like you said, there's like this learning curve to getting your wallet set up and understanding all these ins and outs, and then there's also the growing concern of gas prices becoming very expensive. Grevinators asking like, where does it stop? Where do you see this? Do you see this train slowing and stopping? And like, what about when gas becomes unsustainable? Like, is there anything artists and collectors can do?
Gas is unsustainable right now. But I mean,
yeah,
when gas prices are this high, my takeaway is, wow, like we're really doing something right. Like, look how popular this experience is right now. Like Ethereum is crushing it. Yeah, gas prices are ridiculously high, but they're high because of this insane success. If they were low, it would be because Ethereum was having, limited success. But we've seen with NBA Top Shot, which, I think whale community is active in. I think Whale Shark has like an extremely large vault there on NBA Top Shot. I mean, working with the Flow blockchain and looking how that works, I mean, you get a glimpse of the future, and the future is like really cool. Like the future is no gas prices, then the future is, really easy transaction and limited friction. I mean, obviously NBA Top Shot is having their own issues with, the amount of people onboarding, but this is a small hiccup, I think, in the greater road of the next, 3 to 5 years. I don't see it as like it's going to stop anything. It's a road bump for us that we will overcome, and it will get solved.
Well, that's heartening, because I was like, I guess I'm like pessimistic. I was like, it's just going to get worse and gas is going to cost $1,000 for every transaction and no one's going to be able to play unless they have tons of money.
If that happens, we'll see more projects, moving on to other blockchains. Like we'll see that. And that's probably a good thing. Like it's going to happen. Ethereum is amazing and great, but it's not going to be the only answer for art or NFTs or collectibles.
But the one thing I do know about Ethereum is the developer community. When they come up with a roadblock or a problem, they fix it. They're right on the cusp of rolling out Ethereum 2.0. That's a massive jump, into proof of work to proof of stake. So it is getting worked on. I know they're some of the most passionate developers you'll get, and they're the biggest developer community.
Yeah, so we think there'll be solutions.
That's awesome. That's exciting, because it's right now, I think it's become hard for both artists and collectors. Now it's like you have to have the investment ready to just make the transaction to get your work on chain. I mean, for me personally, that's what stopped me a lot in 2020 and this year too.
Yeah, and I definitely feel for that. And I think there's lots of things that we can do, as collectors, as communities. Like, I mean, I'm passionate about trying to get a fund together and help artists with gas prices. Like, I think that's important. Like, there should be some type of fund and money put aside from collectors or communities to help, people who can't mint right now. I mean, I'm passionate about that. I think that's important. I'd like to see, I'd like to be involved in helping that. I'm definitely aware that, when it becomes prohibitively expensive for people to mint, things slow down. You definitely see the ability. I mean, I know, talking to the Crypto Planets people today, like they almost had to pull their drop, because they just couldn't, get the gas prices up. So yeah, it is a short-term problem, but it will be resolved.
That's good to hear. And I trust your opinion as a collector, as somebody who's been in this for a while now.
Yeah, for a second.
It's heartening. Yeah. Actually, I think Rempashotim asks, do you have any plans to reach with digital art to those people who have not connected with the crypto world? Like, how do you see yourself kind of reaching out to traditional artists or galleries and trying to pull them into this space?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely with artists, not with galleries. Like we have no interest in trying to bring on more middlemen. One of the experiences that we had with Future Art was we saw a lot of local, gallery people come down, and Dave and I, we took a couple of meetings, and those meetings were like, like really disappointing. Like they were really like these people, from the traditional art world were like, how do we inject ourselves between the artist and the buyer or the fan? And had to explain to them that the reason that crypto art is such a revolution and such a movement is because it's going to exclude people like you from the conversation. You are going to be out
Right.
of a job, and you're the dinosaur and you're the problem. And that's very hard to explain to someone that, and I feel passionate about that, you know, you want to try and remove as many middlemen as possible. Dave and my experience in music was that, in every step of the way, someone had their hand out for a piece of the pie. If you sold a song in Slovakia, it'd have to go through 5 or 6 different collection agencies, publishing houses till you got your pay. And what crypto art means to buyers and sellers and artists is it removes all those extra people. So, yes for the artists, no for the for the gallery folk. Those guys have to find another gig.
I love that response, and I appreciate that. Yeah, that I think it makes more sense. It should be between the artist and the person who's appreciating their art, not just like this nebulous gallery that I guess just kind of trying to get their percentage of a sale. Yeah.
Just to like link back to the previous question where you were talking about like what can collectors do, or to help artists and stuff. And I think it's really simple. Like when I collect, the Sarah show, like when I buy a couple of pieces of the Sarah show, like, my job as a collector, if I want to take that job on, is to like help her promote her work. Like my job is to like, retweet her, share her. If I believe in her art and I love her story, it's like my job is to get in there and like help grow her stuff. I mean, that's what I can do. It doesn't cost me any money. It literally costs me some time, to get into a conversation, to comment on a post, to share a post. I mean, that's what like any collector can do to any artist, is give them the attention, provide them, with some clout or some energy. And I think that's what anyone can do.
That's awesome. It's a great answer. And I can't believe this hour has gone by so fast. We have a lot of questions from the chat if you want to keep going.
I'm going to have to pour another drink though.
Yeah. Sure thing. Please do. Everybody else, hydrate, drink some water.
Yeah,
it's important.
Definitely sparkling water. Yeah, I'd love to answer a few more questions.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. So Demon Tiger asks, is there a platform that you prefer to go to when you buy NFTs, or is it more about the art and less about where it's found?
No, it's definitely, I'm acutely aware of like these waves that, that we have in popular culture. Like, I guess it's like nightclubs almost, like one nightclub is like super hot for a year, and then, the one across the road opens and that's like super hot. Like it's great to go where the energy is. And, even in my short time, we've seen like Super Rare have like incredible wave, and then you've seen Rareable have a wave, and then Nifty Gateway again has had a wave, and then it'll probably pivot back to Known Origin. Like I definitely am aware of, these little moments, these little swings, and I'm a pop culture guy. Like I love to go where the energy is. It's not saying that those other places, when they're not hot, aren't completely like fantastic platforms, but yeah, there's definitely something about being, in the hottest nightclub. You know what I mean? You want to be in that nightclub that's everyone wants to get into, yeah, because that's where the best time is going to happen.
It's a great answer. Go where the energy is.
Yeah, I mean, like you get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have another question from Henry 12. As a noob to crypto art, I often think about the ability to display an NFT in my living room. Do you see this as something that will reach mass adoption in the future, like a digital frame?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I'm a big believer in, digital frame technology. I'm seeing, we're seeing so many more screens in houses. We're seeing things like the Samsung picture frame. I've got friends that, have huge screens now. And I think, yeah, I do think we're going to be able to bring art on. Obviously, it's not the screen that's a problem. It's like the app or the display mechanism that has to still be solved. And, I'm slightly disappointed it hasn't been solved yet, but, I have high hopes that once someone is able to create that killer app on your phone that you can walk in and really control and display your crypto art, then we'll see a massive explosion in that. For me personally, I had a place over Christmas. I was like living in, we had no furniture. Literally, like, it was just like nothing, and all I had was like a projector and like a 60-inch screen tipped up on its side, and like it was just the best fun. Like it was literally like, yeah, I was like, this is how I want to live. I want to get rid of all the furniture and just like, project onto walls.
That sounds really cool. Yeah, that's a great way to do it too, having a projector, a digital frame.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
also, hosting.
I think we'll see a
I
lot
was going to
more.
say,
Yeah, the Beeple
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
obviously with Beeple and like, the, those frames, what are they called, Dave? The
The Infinity Objects.
Infinity Objects. Yeah, I mean, you're seeing more of that now. I just, yeah, I know I've seen like photos from Blau's house. I'm like super jealous. Like he's got like, like triple frames up on the roof. Yeah, I mean, we'll start to see more of it. I have no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. So Arcus asks, how do you search for hidden gems in a market that's full of artworks from different artists? And how do you research the artists that minted it?
Yeah, I mean, that is just literally like how much time. I mean, have you gone through every piece of work that's minted on Super Rare? I mean, for me, I've been through every piece of work minted on Super Rare like a couple of times. And,
Wow.
I feel like it's a great learning experience. I mean, obviously, it helps if you don't have a full-time job, but you can definitely, I mean, it's there for everyone to like dive into. For me, like jumping onto Rarible with, like 0.2 ETH or 0.1 ETH is still an incredibly exciting experience. And I challenge everyone who's listening today to like literally just take a little bit of ETH that you can afford and just dive into the undiscovered gems. It's like going shopping at like, some Middle Eastern bazaar or some like back alley in Bangkok and looking for like some
shop.
Yeah, it's yeah, exactly, like a record shop. It's hunting for gems, and you should not think about the artist, really. Take a punt. I mean, buy something that you really like, and if you really like it, maybe you could reach out to that artist and help them on their career.
Yeah, that's actually great advice. Thinking about it like record digging. I don't know how many people in this group still do that, but especially with the pandemic. But there's something to be said for just like actually judging a book by its cover and being like, oh, this record looks interesting, and taking it home and then like having your mind blown and you didn't even know who these people were or who this band was beforehand. So
Yeah, I
no,
mean,
that's really cool.
it might not be the most financially, I mean, successful. I mean, I've definitely just bought art blindly, just on my gut, and have made really great money off that. I've also bought a lot of art, that I will never be able to resell, and no one will be interested. But I got a thrill of buying it at the time, and I know that I'm part of an ecosystem. I'm part of a community, and I know that when I spend some ETH, I really, can really lift someone, an artist. I mean, I've had so many artists reach out to me and just say, you were the first person to buy my stuff. It just literally, it was only a tiny amount of ETH, but that gave me the ability to keep going and create more stuff. I mean, there's just, definitely giving back is really rewarding.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Mm-hmm. And it feels like it should be a give and take relationship between, fans of music as well as collectors of art, and between the artists. It just makes sense. So Grevinator asks, do you foresee physical museum spaces showing NFT art in the near future, like a blending progression, or do you see NFT as more of a takeover of the old art world? How decentralized currencies will take over centralized?
No, 100%. Every art gallery in the world will be displaying NFTs, digital art, within the next 2-3 years. 100%. You cannot be operating a museum without having some form of digital art going forward. That's our feeling, on it. It's such an exciting space. Dave and I we were lucky to go to the Van Gogh Live, which was really weird that we had this huge exhibition in Sydney during the pandemic, and it was Vincent van Gogh. I'm sure some people are familiar with the touring exhibition. I think it's done
14 million tickets.
Yeah, done 14 million tickets worldwide, and it's this incredible sort of immersive experience where people go to see the artwork of Vincent van Gogh, but it's projected on 60-foot, 80-foot, 100-foot screens with music. It's animated. I mean, if you can do that to the work of Vincent van Gogh, I mean, and it sold 14 million tickets. I mean, who's not going to want to do, digital art? And when I say digital art, I mean, who's making digital art and not putting it on the blockchain? I mean,
right.
Who are those guys?
I think just people that aren't even aware. It's got to be that they aren't aware of it, or they don't fully understand.
And I think that gap will. I mean, just what we've experienced in the last 6 weeks, the growth in the last 6 weeks in the NFT space with NBA Top Shots. I've seen some people who have never bought crypto, never knew what an NFT was, had no idea that they were fans of art or crypto art, through that funnel of the NBA, have got into that, met Pranksy or became aware of Pranksy. From that, they've got on to, to buying one of Pranksy's boxes. Now they're on Super Rare. Now they're buying artwork. And that happened literally overnight. And we're talking about college kids in the United States and sports betting people and total just ESPN chads just pouring into crypto art, and they had no idea that, it was even happening to them.
Yeah, there's all kinds of people coming into this space that you just wouldn't expect. So I feel like you're right. This gap is going to close between people who've never heard of it or who don't fully understand this technology and how it's really beneficial for both collectors and artists, just to prove authenticity and also to continue to make money off of it. And
I think the royalty thing, when Dave and I talk to artists, when we attempting to onboard a traditional artist, the eureka moment, that that moment that sparks lightning in their eyes, is when you explain to them about the royalty.
I mean, it's traditionally they just get that primary sale. They don't know where their art's gone after that, how much is sold for after that, and it just literally blows their mind that forever that they hold that wallet address they're going to be getting the secondary sale.
And I look at Banksy, right? Like Banksy, all those prints that he sold for £200. There are prints he sold for £200, which sold in Sotheby's, for £100,000, and he has missed out a lifetime of
it's a crime.
secondary sales. Imagine when he just like, fuck it, I want to get into crypto art. I want to be paid every time there's a secondary sale.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's crazy to me that wasn't how things were to begin with. Like, what was the point of a physical proof of authenticity from a gallery if it wasn't so that the artist could continue to make money on it? The way things used to be, it was just the collectors could just continue making money, and the artist continues to.
It's funny you should mention that, because I'll tell you a quick story that, like, and I keep referring back to Banksy, because obviously so influential. But when you would ask for a certificate of authenticity for a Banksy print, you would have to take a photo of the print, and you take a photo of the stamp that was embedded by the printer, and you would send those photos in an email with the print number and who you bought it off. And Banksy would then himself would look at the print, look at the photos, look at the history of the print, and then he would charge you $100 to send back his certificate of authenticity, for the time and effort. I mean, we've come a long way, right?
Yeah, definitely. We have another question from Gravinator, if you have time for another one. We've seen NFT art, music, games, etc. Where do NFTs go next? Like, what current tangible world space will NFTs enter next?
I mean, I think, NBA Top Shot, I keep referring to it, but that's the tip of an iceberg for digital collectibles. I think with music and music artists, we'll see a lot more. Dave's doing some great stuff with.
Yeah, so I'm tokenizing some NFTs. But I also think, apart from the creative side of things, I feel that there's a lot of real world assets, like houses will be NFTs, and different things.
Yeah, I definitely think that we would love to sell, like, for future art, like our ticket, for the next future art, we want that to be an NFT.
Yeah.
That's really like, when you buy a ticket, we're selling you entry to the event, but we're actually selling you an NFT, which has video, music, artwork, and entry. That's really, one of the examples that we use a lot.
That's a really cool idea. You're like tokenizing the experience itself too.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
like,
if you're going
memory.
if you're going to Coachella, like, why not buy the Coachella ticket? And that ticket is an NFT, and who knows what that means. Maybe that's an NFT box. Like, maybe you get an NFT from every artist that you see at Coachella. Like, like, the future is as crazy as you can sit down and, like, speculate. But I see events, live music, digital collectibles, all that stuff just to turbocharge.
Yeah, that's exciting. That idea to tokenize the tickets and have music and art attached to it, and then you keep it forever. I mean,
you just keep it forever, and you can be like, you remember how wasted we were down at the Diplo show, That's,
and you want to buy it?
Yeah,
there's
like,
so many.
I don't remember, but here's the NFT that Diplo dropped us, and that's the story, right?
Oh, that's so cool. So yeah, I mean, we're already an hour and 15 in. I guess last question for you is.
We'll take one more, yeah?
Yeah. So what is next for future art? Do you have any events that are coming up that we should know about? Any virtual or real life?
We could actually give you the world exclusive that we're about to announce our next future art event, which we're doing over 4 days in Easter here in Sydney. The name of the show is Future Art Presents Follow the White Rabbit. We're going to do a Alice in Wonderland, Down the White Rabbit, crypto rabbit hole. and yeah, we're really going to explore that whole sort of dynamic. Yeah, we're really excited. We've got 4 days here. We've got 10 new artists and 4 days of music and crypto art. So we're about to announce that. So you guys are the first to hear that. Please don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anybody. Keep your secrets. Be good, fam. That's really exciting. I can't wait to see it. And I hope that you will be sharing some parts of that experience virtually for those of us that are in COVID-ridden spaces.
Yeah, and we feel for you. And you know what, Heather, maybe you could punch in a drum and bass set for us. Yeah, like
That could
live.
be cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I would be honored. Yeah. Please keep me posted. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for being here and entertaining all of our questions. I thank you to the Whale Fam for all of your questions. I apologize if I missed them. There was a lot. So I appreciate your presence and your interest. And thank you again, Moon and Dave. And have a magical evening.
Yeah, I would just like to say, like, obviously we're on Twitter, like, 24/7. So like always up for like answering, if hit us up there. We're happy to answer any questions or give any support where we can.
Yeah, and I'm gonna throw the links in chat also for people to make sure you follow Satsmoon and Future Art so that you are ready when they announce the follow the White Rabbit event, which sounds really amazing. Great.
Thanks, Heather. I appreciate
so
it. Yeah.
much.
Big love.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Thanks. Big
Cheers.
love. Bye, guys.